to church service or new clothes. It could be anything, brother. You know what I'm saying? It could be anything at all. But when I recognize those things as, that's something that we should talk about. That's the key, I think. That helps me to take away. It does not have to be concern. That's something we should talk about. Then I believe 70% of the time, I'll initiate that conversation and she'll meet me right where I am and we'll begin to open that door up, or we'll begin to plan for a time to open it up, and then we stick to the plan. That's that first half.
And I love that you made the distinction of, or didn't even want to call it an issue or necessarily it being a problem or something. There's just something that you and her that came up within you that you want to connect with, right? Whatever that may be. Could be what are we eating tonight, I would imagine, right? Like or for the next week, or what our budget looks like for the next week, whatever it is that comes up. There's a thought, and then the ability for her to be open to having the conversation, to meet you there, is like the other piece of it. Is that what they call when you married? Is that like the work in the marriage, or would you consider that? Or
could you expound? Do you mind expounding on that? The work in the marriage,
right? Because you hear a lot of what I would call people who are married. I don't know whether they're successful or not. I don't want to call it that, but they're married, and they say, and you ask them questions about their marriage, and they've been married for an extended period of time. You know, let's say plus 10, 15 years. I think you and Kathy are what, 20, 25 going on that?
Yeah, we're at 27, approaching 28.
Is that a part of what people call when they say, oh, the marriage takes work, right? Like I've heard people say that before, use that term, and maybe you can even expound more on that. I know it's not the complete thing, right? Because it's more, I would imagine there's more work to it if work is the case. But that portion of it, and if it is a portion of it, how much does it save work down the long run, or does it because it almost sounds like it becomes a preventative / maintenance kind of thing when you all are having these different kind of conversations. And I don't want to conflate the two, but maybe I expounded enough. If not, I can do more.
No, you expounded plenty. You made it very clear, and you made it very clear from your perspective of the information that you have and how you interpreted that information, or how you saw it or read it. And so it makes it a lot easier for me to understand what you meant by it. And I would have to agree that would be considered part of the work. That is part of the work. And I would say that is part of the work, that if it's left out, you're going to have damages down the road. I had this conversation. I've been having this conversation, a continual conversation for the last few years on a board that I'm on. And we've been discussing these different things. And multiple times I've gone to the board, and I've discussed that, we're putting out these fires. And so I made the suggestion that we just start to do something strategically down the road, 5-year, 10-year, this plan. And this has kind of fallen by the wayside so many times. So I brought it up again and again over so many years, really attempting to push it forward. When you do something like this, just like a forecast and a business plan, things do tend to adjust because you can only see as far as you can see. Anywhere beyond that, you have no idea what it is. You can only forecast. However, if you forecast certain things, you will find that eventually the day will actually show up where the things that you forecasted and planned for will be today. And when those things become today, the plan has already been put in the process. So you begin to reap the benefits on that day. So even if it's 5 years away from now, you put in the process, hey, you know what? We really need to start I believe that I want to take vacations. I want to go to Rome. I'm talking about a relationship with, my wife or a spouse. And my wife says, we can't afford it. Like, well, why? Well, because I want to do all of this. And you say, well, how much does all of this cost? All of this costs $35,000. It costs $50,000. And I want to be gone for 3 weeks. And the kids have to be so old or whatever that is. You you take the paper out and you just line everything out. 50 grand. This is what I need. 3 weeks, $50,000, and I won't have to worry about a doggone thing. And that's the only time I want to go to Rome. Like, okay, well, can we do that this year? No, we can't afford it. Next year, no. Someone's graduating and someone's doing this, all these things. So you say, okay, well, when do you think we could do it? I don't know. Probably never. And you say, well, hold on. If we were to take $1,000 and put it away per month, how much money will we have at the end of the year? Well, it's $12,000. Okay. If we were to do that for 4 years, how much will we have? $48,000. So then that would mean in the 5th year, we could actually do this. Oh, yeah, we could do that. And so it's like we set that up so that 5 years from now, it'll actually work. Now, that's easier to do with something that is quote unquote financial because you can read the numbers. How about when we start talking about communication? If my goal is in 5 years to have what I consider, and I can discuss this with my wife, what she and I consider to be a healthy marriage. We put healthy marriage at the top of the list, and then we start writing it down. Healthy marriage means, what does it mean? It means being able to communicate hard things without getting upset. It means having guidelines so that if we are upset, we don't overstep another person's boundary. It means becoming financially stable. It means, and you just go down that line, right? Now we've created this framework of what it takes. And so we take that framework and we put it in our future. And when you put it in your future, that framework in your future, you're saying by the year, this is 2026, by the year 2031, we're going to have a healthy marriage, right? And so this is the ideal healthy marriage in 2031. And then what we need to do in order to get there is now the thing that we are going to start to work on. And so it's like, okay, I can't stand this. I can't stand that. I can stand this. I can stand that. We start to write down all these.
Can you get specific?
You get specific, right? So it's like,
no. I want you to get specific. Like real quick, what can a person stand? It doesn't have to be you personally, but just specific. Because I know you work with other married people, or you're around other married people, and you may hear it, so we don't know who they are, but just something specific somebody may be thinking about in that regard.
Absolutely. Like just some examples. So for instance, we always argue. And when we argue, I can't stand you. I don't want to be around you. You make me so sick. I can't even look at your face. Right? It's like, okay, what can I do that when we get into arguments would give us the space to actually want to be around each other? Well, I don't know. All I know is I need some time. Okay, you need time. What does that look like to you? I don't know. If I could just think for an hour, then I think that maybe I could come back and have a conversation with you. There we go. This now is something tangible that we could actually do. We can, hey, we can set up a word. We can set up a word: happy, dad, TV, pineapple, canopy, whatever. I get upset. Canopy has rules. It has a framework. If I say canopy, it means I get 1 hour to consider what's going on. You get 1 hour. We're going to come back in 1 hour, unless there's something else that's outside of it, which we would have a redundancy, right? A redundancy. And that would come back in an hour, and we will come back and we're going to talk with each other, because the overarching goal, this is an entire class I teach, the overarching goal is whatever that is, and we want to maintain that. And in this instance, I won't call it an overarching goal, but I'll call it one of the spokes of the overarching goal is going to be the happy marriage in 5 years. That's one of the spokes of our overarching goal, is happy marriage 5 years. And a happy marriage 5 years means that we're not arguing and biting each other's heads off. And that means today, one of the things that we're going to do today is we are going to set up rules of engagement. So if I get angry, I say canopy. When I say canopy, that triggers a behavior. The behavior is I get my time away, you get your time away for 1 hour, and in 1 hour's time, we're going to come back with level heads, and we're going to discuss this thing and work through it. Now, we may need to create a framework for what that looks like, but just taking these things step by step. And it may only be that we leave for an hour and come back. And now we can't keep it. Canopy, we got so many canopies going up. It's nothing but shade in our house. And at that point in time, it's like, okay, we need a second rule for what happens when we come back. Maybe we need to add, I'm not only going to go away for 1 hour, but I'm going to write down what I'm thinking about. And I'm going to bring back what I've written, and I'm going to share what I wrote with you, because maybe I can't speak it in a way that does not offend you. So I'm going to start to go through these different processes to see which process will help us get the advantage on our goal, which is happy, healthy marriage in 5 years. And so we'll just keep building on that. What will happen is you'll end up with a brand new style of living life together. Or as you stated, connection. You'll end up with a brand new way of connection, and you'll begin to separate your emotional, I don't want to call it baggage, but your emotional energy from the things that actually move the needle. You'll have your tangible, you'll have your intangible. And when you separate the intangible, the emotional piece, and you focus on the tangible, the emotional piece will begin to change. You'll be able to find happiness. You'll be able to find joy, because you will not draw from a negative perspective, because the tangible things that you're doing are creating a positive atmosphere. If we were to use negative and positive, by creating the rule and following through, you will create a positive atmosphere, which will have a positive effect on the way you feel about what you're doing. And it will give you the release that will cause you to want to do it again. So this is now behavior modification. Now, listen, y'all, everybody out there, I do not have a degree in this stuff. Okay. I ain't got no degree. So if it starts to sound like this is something that from some doctor somebody, go look up doctor somebody and check on it yourself. Okay. I'm just telling you, this is what I have gathered from the multitude of relationships that I've worked with, and my own relationship, which has had multiple occurrences of challenges, highs and lows, and what I've learned through my mentors, read through my books, read out of my Bible, got through prayer, and this is the accumulation of those things that I'm working out. So I just want to put that disclaimer out there. because don't be suing me and don't be suing Mike because he was on the screen while I was talking this stuff. It worked.
As you said, I'm starting to see some content creators put like a disclaimer now because naturally we've gotten so deep into this content creation and YouTube platforms and people really speaking opinions and their own experiences and thought processes, and we're bringing this to the forefront. And people are taking a lot of these things and taking it back. Now, the interesting about it to me is that you're speaking in your experience and on this in this conversation, although you've gotten into depth with it, even that depth is really, it's a generality, right? Like if everyone out there, you all are having, it's the same story, but it's you all are caught. There's specific things that are triggering you or going on in your relationship that you have, and just for you to just take it like that is going to lead to like it's almost like wielding a sword or something, and you don't know how to move this weapon around. So it would behoove you to, if you want to, reach out and get a little bit more clarity on it, right? Or otherwise, you may come up with a moment where you got so deep into it. And hey, and the thing about these frameworks, I'm listening. That's what I hear. I hear a framework. The framework works, but then there's certain intricacies within it. And a lot of people can't take the foundational stuff and the strategic stuff and the tactical stuff, and you think the strategic and tactical things are actually foundational, and they may not necessarily be that, right? You're gonna go home and say canopy and teach this thing about canopy. I'm just using this example, and take it home and say, okay, I figured it out, because this is if you haven't heard stuff like this before, I would imagine it blows your mind, right? It would have blown my mind a while ago, right? And you take it home, and now you say a canopy, and then what you end up doing is you use it as a weapon. I've seen it happen with nonviolent communication, how people use it. With Marshall Rosenberg, his framework, they'll read the book, and then they'll say, okay, we understand, because you understand the concept. You're intelligent enough to read the book and understand the concept, and then you take it home, and then you're using it in a way that's really like almost offensive to the person you're dealing with. You all use it in that kind of way, just like the canopy. Now all of a sudden you're saying canopy just because you don't want to deal with something. Yeah, canopy. Yeah, canopy. Yeah. I'm back. We have a canopy. And you forgot the part where he said you got to write it down. You go to another step of writing it down, but you ain't saying you forgot that part. You're just talking about canopy and taking an hour and walking away, and really what you end up doing is ruminating and becoming super hyper vigilant around how you can do this thing or get over it or get past. You can bypass it by saying canopy. Oh, once this person calms down, I can bypass it. No, because it's going to happen again. And now the way that we end up using these same systems. So anyways, I'm going to get back to it. Another thing you brought up.
That's good. If I can just break in for a moment, that's good. And I'm glad you said every single thing that you just said. Every single thing. Because I oppose. I don't oppose. I just understand that when we get online, and I say we, because my next video may be the exact same thing. So I'm saying we. When we get on these reels and we're like, I'm going to teach you 3 things. I get it. Just people understand that when we as content creators and as thought leaders, we understand in telling a story or in delivering a message that people can only hold so many ideas inside their mind at one time. So when we say 3, it doesn't mean that this 3 is everything. And so like what you just said, Mike, about how those 3 things or that one thing that you just heard me talk about, canopy, may not be the foundational thing. That may be the thing that comes after the thing that came after the first thing. But you got to get in touch with me or get in touch with Mike or get in touch with that individual. The reason why they can say these 3 things, it should be because they have a wealth of knowledge, and you just happen to catch this 1 60-second blip that tells you it's a good time to give them a phone call. Right.
I'm gonna tell you what. It actually worked though. But of course, we had been doing this communication thing for a while. And I remember there was a huge, intense moment I was having with somebody. And I thought about Chris Voss. And Chris Voss has a part where someone asks you a question and really how you respond is when you kind of want them to rethink it is like, well, how do you want me to do that? You know what I mean? And in that moment, I was like, well, how do you want me to do that? You know what I mean? And it worked, but I was aware, like, okay, you just can't be throwing this around willy-nilly, right? If you could, but in that moment, it was like it brought it back a lot of things back down to levity. I would also advise if, for whatever reason, you're intimidated or whatever, let me put it this way. You're going to use some kind of resource within communication, relationships, so on and so forth. It's going to be time invested. It's going to be money invested. It's going to be emotionally invested. There's a lot of things that go along when you're essentially what I would call self-exploration. Some people call self-growth, so on and so forth. Like these are some of the things that kind of move the needle, right? We give out so much information. And not only do we give out so much information, but we actually show you us going through the process. Like it's almost crazy how vulnerable we have been in the past 5 to 6 years. And you can go back and see some show, go back and see some shows just like, but Mike, in 2021, you said this, and now you said that. Yeah. Like this was we're documenting this journey. So when we start, and now we're at the point where I still think, as far as I'm concerned, because I sat back and I had to laugh at life recently. I was just like, oh, there's so much more to go. Like,
Yeah.
like there's so much more. Like I can go back and read the same book I was reading since I was however old I was, and the book has changed. Right? Not the words on the book, not, it's the same book. I've had it for however long I've had it. And I go back and read it and just be like, that's interesting. I never even thought of it this way. Maybe the author was speaking it in this kind of way, but now this is how it resonates with me. So it's just the work after work after work. And we do this every week for about an hour for the most part. We've missed a handful, right? So this is showing you like the time put into it. So when we speak on this framework, it's like I automatically understand what the brother is saying, but I definitely want someone who's catching us now or say, go back and go check it out, man. Because a lot of what we're doing is really kind of what growth looks like. Like it can be this. It's just a weird way where you're like, okay, I'm out of the forest. And then guess what? And I'm gonna use the same example. We got this 5-year plan, relationship plan. I got this 5-year business plan where this is going to happen and this is going to happen. And then boom, something happens. Mike Tyson said you get punched in the mouth. That's life. Like you are going to get, I don't care what it is, you can say, I'm not going to tempt this or what. Something is going to happen that's going to make you say, kind of rethink. While I'm saying it, I'm thinking as the Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson has his first, I think it's second book, 12 Rules for Life or something like that. Really good book. All right, nothing that you haven't heard before. The brother is super verbose, but it just happens to be the book that the group is reading at the time. And he speaks on that. He's like, we do all of these things because we want our life to be kind of like a stable way. Like we just want it to go a certain kind of way. And then just as life happens, it hits us to where we're just like everything that we thought about something may not necessarily be how we saw it at our point of view at the time. Things happen. In relationships, things happen in relationship. And you get a chance to go back to, I think, the foundation, and we spoke about it last week, and I'll talk about a little bit about it, is the love is that super foundation. Because when you're using these frameworks, it has to be something genuine going on. right? It has to be, it can't be just I'm using these frameworks in order to get out of this thing that we're doing. Like there's something deeper involved that's going to keep both of us, when we come back to it, when we're in a relationship with each other, to say that I'm giving this my 100, just like you're giving this 100. And when even when you mentioned like the 70-20 or 70-30, like in that, just because it's this communication thing, and the brother's so high level on it, so anybody who's at least open to this stuff is like, it's gonna be, you gotta give you 100 when you come into it. Otherwise, you're gonna be super frustrated. So also having the empathy and compassion to notice that in the other person. Because if you don't have that empathy and compassion to notice that, hey, this person is putting in their 100 as well, you may start to resent it, or they start to resent it, or you can't even bring that up. Like, hey, listen, I don't know if you actually putting forth your all in this thing, but I just, there's a disconnect here possibly, and maybe you are, maybe you're tired, maybe there's things going on, right? We're getting older, right? We're getting slower. I got out of bed the other day. My ankle hurt. I did nothing with my ankle the day before. I had to walk around and twist it for about 20 minutes, right? Like I'm like, what did I do yesterday? You ain't did nothing. Because today's leg day, right? But there's something going on with that. I don't know. Maybe I banged it in my sleep, but things happen, right? These are the emotions. There's biological things going on. There's the brother spoke about emotions. I really want us to pause on that, because you mentioned there's one more thing I want to mention after this emotion thing, and I don't want to I don't want to. So we'll take this where we go with it. That's how we do, anyways. That emotional piece is super important when we talk about with the plans or whatever, because today the plan may be, I'm all for it, right? My state, when we came up with the plan, I'm looking at it. We wrote this stuff down. We got super excited about the trip, going on the trip, or where our relationship or marriage or whatever is going to be within 5 years. And man, I'm in a state of whoop whoop. Tomorrow's Valentine's Day. Yep, and we just made a plan. We just the high of the highs right now. And then 2 weeks later, I'm not necessarily in that state anymore for whatever reason. It could be a plethora of reasons, right? I jumped out the car one time and I seen somebody, I just happened to see them hit their leg on the, they hit their leg when they got out of the car and they were in pain. And I looked at it and I just happened to look at them and they just looked upset, right? So there was like, they were just upset for whatever reason. And I'm just like, if I just took it personally, I can be like, oh, it's something about me. Like, how did I make this person upset? And it had nothing to do with you. It's just something personal they have going on. So 2 weeks later, something may happen. I jumped out of bed and my ankle hurt. And you may be on the opposite side because you the 10-year plan popped in your mind. So you're in a super good mood. I'm not. And now I'm looking at the plan kind of awkward or whatever the case may be. But we get a chance to kind of roll through those things. But that also takes, which most of us are learning, that self-awareness of it. So that emotional piece is super, we can't just write it off, right? One of my rules that I had, and I'm gonna share this with the new principles with you soon. I'm looking at them now, I got them written up. But I had one of my 10 rules of last year, and I got it down to 5. But one of the rules was emotions are a signal, and they are. But it has nothing to do with that book. But emotionally, I'm looking at this book differently, or excuse me, the plan that we had differently, as far as that. Oh man, or you may miss a conversation or something. So you get a chance to be flexible with it. You get a chance to be compassionate with it. You get a chance to be empathetic with it. And the brother, as the leader of his home, though, right? I think that just explains it all. So he's breaking down the numbers for you, but as a leader, it would be incumbent upon you, if you say you're a leader, right? If you say this thing to me, not just because you're biologically male, not because you identify as a man or whatever it is, but if you're saying that you're a leader and it goes beyond just this biological situation, So when you said the 70%, it doesn't even matter of where, you know, your wife, who's absolutely wonderful and beautiful, is in regards to it. But I'm glad you gave her the credit for playing her part. But you just haven't already within you saying, man, you know, 70% of the time I'm taking it upon myself to bring this thing up, right? I'm holding space. I know I'm holding space for her to whatever the situation she got. I'm open to it. I'm sure she knows, and hopefully she knows, understand that. Calvin, and I'm speaking in generalities, not for you personally, brother. But 80% of the time, I can't just be like, you know how we do be as men. Life is so simple and so rational. You know what I mean? Like, it's so simple and so rational. Nah, this lady, because you need to be present with this person. Okay, let's nip this in the bud, or not nip it in the bud. Let's have this conversation surrounding it. And in that same book, 12 Rules by Jordan Peterson, he speaks about this story. It's a guy named Bill Bixby who had a dragon in the house. And the dragon, the kid goes to the mother and says, hey, mom, there's a dragon in my room. And she's like, there's no dragon. And so he comes back a day later, and the dragon got a little bit bigger. He's like, mom, there's a dragon in my room. And she's like, there's no dragon in the room. And then they come back a week later, and the dragon's even bigger. And she's like, and now she got to actually go around and vacuum around the dragon. And she's telling him there's no such thing as dragons. There is no dragon there. And they said it got to a point where the dragon was so big that the wings flew out the window, and it took the house and it flew away. And finally, he said, mom, see, I told you there was a dragon. And she finally had to come to the realization that there was a dragon. And when she came to the realization that there was a dragon, then the dragon started shrinking. But by that time, it had taken them so far away from where they had already been that they didn't even recognize where they were. I'm making this part up. That's essentially what it's saying. But it's saying that the dragon wants to be recognized. And if you recognize it when it's small, it's not going to get to the point where it takes up and it flies the house and causes more damage than what it could have been. But you have to recognize it. So when the brother spoke about just speaking about those little things up front, or when there's something that comes up, whatever it is, it might be something funny, right, to you at the time. But I think I need to tell this joke to my wife. I need to, or your son or your daughter. Like, you really use this in all your relationships, right? If you can get not ahead of it, but if you can just speak to it. That's my relationship with Elijah right now. I'm speaking to almost everything. And when he goes to the bus stop, I'm speaking to him. We have now 15 minutes of special time. And when he doesn't request it within a certain amount of days, I'm requesting it for me. I'm just talking to him. Hey, this may have come up yesterday. I don't know if you got it. I'm sure you did. We got an email and a voice message left by the principal that next week there's plans of the students walking out of the high school. And the teacher was saying about, I guess it's in a protest. The kids are planning a protest, and the teacher was talking about. Before I got the email in that, Elijah came to me, and he was like, "Hey, Dad." I'm like, "What?" He said, "Man, next week, man, this weekend. Did you hear about it?" I said, "Hear about what?" He said, "Next week, the kids are planning on walking out and protest the ICE." Listen, because this is a proud moment for that. He told me before I even heard about it, and I'm like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, so I said, "What do you plan on doing?" And he's like, I don't think I'm gonna walk out, but I'm just telling you that. But I'm looking at him like, I think you may walk out. So I was like, listen, I'm not telling you what. This is my conversation with Elijah. I'm not telling you what to do, right? Listen, because I'm gonna love you anyways, regardless of the situation. If this protest is near and dear to you, then that's one thing, right? I said, but there's going to be discipline and consequences, whether the school puts it in place or whether you and I have to have a conversation in regards to it. But I'm not going to be angry or mad at you about whatever it is that you did, but we are going to have a conversation in regards to it, right? We're going to talk about it. And if you are thinking about doing it, I really want you to do the research on it. Like right now, he has these twists in his hair. Before he got the twist, he asked me, Dad, I want to get twists in my hair. So I said, okay, I hear you, right? When I was young, I had dreads actually. I said, but before you get them, you need to write a report about where this stuff comes from. Like just tell me about it. I'm not mad at, because I'm telling you, I love my son anyways. I personally think like Jonah, Elijah, I got some nieces and other nephews. The majority of them, I'm like, God's blessed us with these kids, because I remember myself at that age, and I'm just like, I'm so proud of it. And I don't want there to be a place to where he can't have this conversation with me about something, right? And you need to allow me my moment, right? When you give me this information. So if the grades are bad, if there's a walkout, and I joked with him later when I got it, I said, man, your teacher, your principal just left a message. He sounded really nervous too, because there was a lot of ahs and ums in the message. He sounded really like he wanted to be super politically correct as he spoke about it. I said, Elijah, they named you as the ringleader. So I said they named you as a ringleader. What's up with that? I said, what's up with that?
Hey, what'd he say?
He said, man, they couldn't be talking about me. I was like, I don't know. This is just, I listened to the message that I got, but the thing is holding that space. And I'm telling them they have to allow me my space as well, because I'm still human. I'm a father. So there's certain things that may kind of be like, you get that like, man, I can't believe you did that or whatever, but still come and have this conversation. Let's talk about it. Do your research on it. I'm not telling you what to do, right? I want to guide you. There's certain things that's respectful within this house. Above all, it's the conversation that you and I are having, because I'm not going to be upset when things happen, because things happen. You're going along your journey as a young man. I'm probably going to be more upset that you felt like you couldn't come to me. And it's not even, I'm upset at you. I'm probably more disappointed in me, because what kind of space did I not have in order for you to have this conversation with me, right? And I talk to him all the time about that. I'm like, well, yeah, he said, you and my relationship, yeah. I was like, is that? I said, that's not like our relationship, right? Like, I'm just because the most important thing to me is our relationship, right? Like listen, our relationship. But you still have to give me my chance as a human to have that kind of way. All right, but I said I was finished about 20 minutes ago.
man, that was good. That was real good. You really showed an example of one way of using the example that I was talking about with your son. Like all of that I had mentioned about 5 years later, and giving that example that you had asked of me, it's like those are the things that you're doing right now. And those are the things that makes 5 years, 10 years, 15 years to be that successful, whatever it is that people are looking for. It's like, and you're right. If people were to go back and rewind the tapes, they would find out when you started to do the 15 minutes, right? They would start that didn't just, it's not like, hey, he's always been doing 15 minutes, but now you can hear him casually speak about 15 minutes. Or I can hear you casually speak about 15 minutes. But I know that is something that you intentionally put in place. I know that it's something, these conversations that you are having with your son and providing him space, I know that is very intentional. It didn't just like, oh, I just watched the video. You did some research on it. So then when you start talking about the research that you require of your son, you can begin to understand, okay, well, I've done research to come across my thought process. I've thought about it. I've prayed about it. I've done the research. I've read the book. I've watched the podcast, or whatever it is. Insert whichever way you get information, right? Right. That's for everybody. However you get your information. And then you took the time to think about it and to make it your own. That's why when you looked up, it's like, so these are like cues. People miss these things, but you looked up. It's a little rectangle. So it's just like, I'm looking at them right now, and you looked up. So there's something written there on the wall, right? Those are principles. Why would I put principles on my wall? Why would I put words there? And I was talking with my mother about it. We were inside of PF yesterday morning, whatever the place is, the fitness place. And we're in there and we were talking about the words. It says no judgment zone. That is so impactful. It's like, why do people put words on the wall? Well, because if you keep reading the same word, eventually you're going to believe it. You put it there big enough and it stays there long enough, you may actually start to believe it. And the words will create an atmosphere for you. The minute your mind gives that word space and its place, you will create an atmosphere that you feel, in this case, no judgment. Or if your principle's on the wall, that you do that. So it's just, it's something else, because all of these smaller things are the reasons why that you've been applying over X amount of years. It's like the reason why today is working so well. And so when we're talking with people about these different frameworks, when I mention the board, if the only thing that I do is be a fireman and I put a fire out, and I'll always be putting the fire out. This is the reason why fire departments created a prevention department, so that we could start teaching people how to prevent fires. Remember Smokey, I think it was Smokey the Bear. Only you can prevent the forest fire. And then the ads went out about how to stamp out your fire, not to use this, not to do that, how to protect against this, how to protect against that. And all of these things were so the firemen didn't have to come and put the fire out. And so what we're talking about is, like you said it earlier, preventative, not necessarily maintenance, but it's this preventative measure. But it's not just preventative measure, it's developmental measure. And that's when you started to say, you went to the word growth instead of preventive. And it's like, whew, that was a beautiful transition right there. Because what if we stopped trying to prevent the wrong things from happening and we just started to grow the right things?
That's big. Stop. I'm hearing stop playing defense. Yeah.
Stop playing defense. Yes.
Go on offense.
I like that. I like that. Yeah, what a wonderful world we would have when we just simply start growing beautiful relationships. Yeah. Yeah, that's good. Stop playing defense. Yeah.
Yeah. People, it's been awesome. It's been, I think it's been a jam-packed. There's a lot. I think last week we left you with something that you probably can put into place. So for my final thing, the brother said something, and I'm like, that's big, without even necessarily knowing and understanding the framework, but it's something to work towards. Figure out, I would say 10-year plan. Like, I don't think, if you can think like, where will I be in 10 years? Like, that's paramount. A lot of things can happen in 10 years, right? And I'm going to shrink. I don't know if you people want me to shrink it. Do what you want, right? You could shrink it to 5 years. I think like life, just once you start to think about it in these terms, like 5 years goes by pretty quickly. But a 10-year thing is something that you almost can't miss. Like, it's far enough to where there's always growth involved in it. So if you can come up with a 10-year plan, 10-year goal, and just write and come up with 3 things for 10 years. Maybe it's something within your, if you're an employee or a business, what kind of employee or business person you want to be, whatever that is. Probably relationship, family. Figure out what it is you want to do with your family. And last thing is health. Figure out something that you want with your health, right? So it's 10 years is far enough for it to be, it can be, now we can really think really huge and really big, something that gets you super excited. Underneath those 3 things, write like 2 sentences in regards to it. As far as how I'm going to, this year, how I'm going to start moving towards that goal. So if it's health, you all know I love health. You want to be, for men, you want to be under 20% body fat. For women, you want to be under 30% body fat, right? And right now, you're not near it. You're maybe 15% off. Some people is 20, 30% off. I'm not going to read the numbers. I don't want to depress anybody. But you can start to say, okay, this year, I'm going to cut it down at least 3 or 4%. That's super bite-sized. That you don't have to starve yourself. You don't got to do nothing. You got to make probably one adjustment. How am I going to make that adjustment? Get excited about it. Maybe I'm going to walk 30 minutes 3 days a week. That's it. Because I'm not doing anything. I'm pretty sedentary at this point. So that's what I say. Come up with those a future plan, 10 years. Up underneath that future plan for 10 years, 2 things that you're going to do this year in order to move it forward. And then you can go back and check on it. But at least there's like a goal, there's hope, there's something to kind of shoot towards in the future. Because a lot of us, we've lost it, right? And my hope for you is while you are doing these things start to adjust and you really start to lean in and you find and lean into whatever purpose it is, right? It's not like I got to figure out what my purpose is. Change 3 things that you think of for the future. And I think over time, this stuff will just come to you. So you're no longer chasing something. You're more so as far as attracting it. That's my thought. Anyway, because I made sure I wrote that down and brought it back. What about you, bro, before we get on?
I like that. You know what came to my mind? When you said what you said was smart. Smart goals. Yeah, specific, measurable, obtainable. I forget the R, but the T is timely. I don't know if you remember it. I don't remember it right now. But the word, the one that I really wanted to focus on was obtainable.
Is it reachable? Is it obtainable? Smart. A is achievable.
Achievable.
Okay. I'm gonna look it up right now. Give me 2 seconds.
All right, you got it. That way you all can get the right dynamics of it.
And that's that thing.
What's that, sir?
No, I was saying you brought up SMART goals. I was just watching the show and the brother brought it up. Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Okay, so it's achievable, not attainable. Almost the same word. Almost the same dynamics, I should say. But achievable. And sometimes we set these goals that are like, I'm going to lift 150 pounds. Like, well, have you ever been in the gym before? No. Take this gallon of water over there to the table. Like, you can't get a gallon of water to the table. Gosh, man. Like, I'm going, so it's just like achievable. When we take these overarching goals and we break it down to these small bite-sized pieces, it's amazing. We can start moving mountains. It's like that old saying, how do you eat an elephant? And in the old days, I would just be like, boom. Like, I don't know. I ain't got a clue. And then when you find out the answer, it's like one bite at a time. It's like, oh, I get it. I get it. So as much as I can put on my fork is what I can handle. I get it. So when you start thinking about these different goals, these relationships, and you take the time to actually measure it out, 10 years, I think 10 years is beautiful. I'm in the middle of a 10-year journey right now. I had set goals with my wife right around the age of 39 into 40. And I said, we have 10 years to do this when we turn 50. And just like Mike said, at about minute 30 or something, it's been like this. And there's been some times when the drop off was so heavy. However, me not even knowing that I would be utilizing the frameworks that we're talking about today. See, we are identifying some things that we have learned. And I'm saying we, because this is my belief. Mike, you'll correct me if I'm wrong. But we are identifying these frameworks today for others to hear us talk about and to learn from that we have done, not just now as we're learning about them, but some of these frameworks we were using when we had no idea we were using them. We were doing some of this stuff, maybe not all of them, but some of them we were doing. And you could go back and look it up. If you all want to, you can go back and look it up, because when Mike and I first started, we had certain things that we probably leaned heavier on, and that gave us a space of possibly more knowledge, and we were more articulate. And now we've got this, we've kind of spanned out, because we recognize, oh, if you did it in A, you can do it in B as well as C and D and E. Oh man, it's transmutable. Oh, okay. I just need to take the identity of the thing off of it, and now I can use the process on everything. And so the thing that I thought I didn't know, I actually did know. I just didn't know that I could use it for that. And so there's some of these things, it was like that. And so the exploration, the reason why it touched me, maybe Mike, you too, but the reason why some of these explorations touched me so deeply and so quickly was because at some rate, in some place, at some time over the last 25 years, I had learned some bit of it, some piece of it. Somebody had dropped a seed somewhere, and it was just waiting to grow. That's what it was. That's what gives us that connection instantly when you get in front of somebody and somebody speaks, quote unquote, to your heart. It's because there was something already inside of you, not because they planted something. This is my thought process. They can plant something and it can speak to you, but there's so many times when someone says something, it's like, oh, I get it now. Anytime you say, I get it now, what does that mean? It's like, oh, it's because you had a word years ago. So anyway, dealing with the attainable or achievable, I just love that you said, break it down into these smaller pieces, work at it every single day with an expectancy at the end of 10 years for whatever it is. This is your drive. This is your motivator. Understand that as you navigate the space from year 1 to year 10, that there will be some adjustments. Give room for the adjustments, because in the beginning, it may feel more like discipline, like forcing yourself to do certain things. Somewhere in between, it may feel like this is my identity, and I just do it because I do it. Somewhere later on, it may be more like, I just love living, and you just do it because allow room for all of that growth, because it may feel different, but there's one single thread that stretches through the entire thing. And as long as you understand that, I believe it's kind of like a North Star, the North Star theory. It's kind of like, as long as you know what your North Star is, you'll always return home. You can always go home. That's it. I'm not going to say any more on that today.
Good stuff, man. People, God, can you get more than that in an hour? I sure wish. Well, maybe I wasn't even. I'm sure I was open to it because we learned a lot of stuff. But this is a dope show, man. It's Friday, guys. Enjoy your weekend. Be safe. Love, peace, happiness, joy, fun. Make it all of that. And we'll see you next week, as long as the God willing the creek don't rise. Peace.
Yo, check the mic, 1, 2, Beacon is the name. Lights up the city, ain't playing no games. Joel Simmons and Michael Seville, the vision is clear. Dropping knowledge, conquering all of your fear. Beacon, that's the sound of the future. The main hosts are here, they built the whole structure. Community strong, we rise from the ground. The beacon power up, yeah, time to look up.